It's finally time for Lynda Carter to speak out about what took place on set, the following, the threats, and the strong man who almost killed her. This is the story she was scared to tell about everything from her hideous addictions to Hollywood's worst lies. Lynda Carter's journey started in Phoenix, Arizona on July 24th, 1951, where she was born. Her family had deep ethnic roots, and she was the youngest of 3 children. Her father came from English and Scots-Irish families, and her mother came from Mexican, Spanish, and French families. Lynda never really spoke Spanish well. She knew a lot about it and was very proud of her background. When her parents split up, her life changed. When Lynda was only 10, her mother, Juanita, took on the duty of supporting the family by working as a telephone operator. Lynda's view of the world changed because of seeing how strong her mother was. It taught her to be strong. It taught her how important it is to keep going. But Lynda had something that made her stand out, even when things were hard. Her favorite thing to do was act. On Lou King's talent show, a Phoenix-based network TV show, that moment made her feel something. Her place on stage was right, not just because she liked being there. At about the same time, she began dance lessons. She learned to dance for 10 years at the School Ballet of Phoenix, where a teacher from the Royal British School of Ballet taught her. She loved singing more than anything else by the time she was in high school. She joined the band Just Us, which had a strange mix of instruments such as A and a conga drum. After that, she joined another band called The Relatives, which included her uncles and lead singer Gary Berghoff. The group booked a show at the Sahara Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas when she was 17. She had to sneak in through the kitchen to get on stage because she was too young to be there. Lynda went to Phoenix's Arcadia High School and then started at Arizona State University. She studied classical dance and theater, and her peers chose her as the most talented person in the class. It was more important to her to be in music than to stay in school. She quit college in 1970 and joined the band Garfin Gathering, which played in Nevada casinos. Their first show was at a brand new hotel in San Francisco. The building was still not done. Due to the lack of proper sidewalks, they had to play for hotel staff in a parking garage. It wasn't fancy, but it was a start. She was ready for a change after 2 years on the road. In 1972, she went back to Arizona, not sure what would happen next. She looked for music for years, but now she was about to enter a world she had never thought of. When she got back to Phoenix, modeling companies were interested in her because of how beautiful she was. She was 5 feet 9 inches tall, had dark hair, and eyes that were very bright blue. She quickly signed with a local agency and started going to beauty pageants. It began as a side chance, but grew into something much bigger. In just a few months, she won the Miss Arizona Miss World USA title. She was named Miss World USA on September 1st, 1972, in Hampton, Virginia. With her confidence and style, she stood out from the other 45 hopefuls. She would represent the U.S. at the Miss World pageant in London at Royal Albert Hall if she won that title. With 53 other foreign delegates to beat, she made it to the top 15. Everything changed in that moment. She became Miss USA the next year. It took more than just putting on a sash and smiling for the cameras to win that title. It made her feel like she could go after bigger goals. Carter used to sing in bars and do shows every night without a clear way to move up before pageants. She was able to leave that life behind and study acting in New York after becoming Miss USA. The best masters like Stella Adler taught her how to make characters come to life. It was hard for many newbies to find their place in Hollywood. This was the next big step, but it wasn't easy to get there. She started taking acting classes and going to auditions in the hopes of getting a part that would make people notice her. In 1974, she made her first TV appearance in the crime show Nakia. After that, he had more small parts in TV shows like Starsky and Hutch and Koss. It wasn't a big deal, but these parts were important. They taught her new things, helped her make friends, and kept her dream alive. Things did not look good in 1975. She had almost spent all the money she had saved for being a singer. Thought about going back to Arizona because she only had $25 left in her bank account. Things changed just as she was about to give up. Her manager called to tell her that she had been cast as Wonder Woman. At first, Joanna Cassidy was cast in the part, but when the managers changed their minds, Carter got the chance. It was just the right time. She was ready to leave, but now she had the best chance of her life. Carter had also played Bobby Joe Baker in the 1976 movie Bobby Joe and the Outlaw. Even though the movie wasn't a big hit, She learned a lot from being in it. What was more important was that it got her ready for what came next. It took more than just looking the part to play Diana Prince and her superhero alter ego. Carter made the character more interesting. It wasn't just her looks that made her Wonder Woman. It was also her warmth, charm, and strong personality. There was a lot of competition for the part. Carter stood out, but actresses like Farrah Fawcett and Jacqueline Smith were also thought about. There was something extra about her that made Wonder Woman feel real. She was beautiful and strong, just the way the producers wanted them to be. The producers told her that some women might be jealous that she played a character who cared a lot about looks. She had a simple answer. She said, "I want women to want to be me or be my best friend." She cared about more than just how she looked in her Wonder Woman outfit. She was about being strong, sure of yourself, and giving people power. When Wonder Woman first came out in 1975, it was a huge hit right away. 10 years, or 60 shows, elapsed between 1975 and 1979. During World War II, Wonder Woman fought the Nazis and stood up for justice. The story then moved to the 1970s, where she faced new threats like terrorism and espionage. This energy, which lets it look at both great heroes and problems facing people today. Wonder Woman was made famous by Lynda Carter. She did more than just play a superhero. She made the character smart and strong. During the war, the first season was mostly about being patriotic and fighting evil, but when the story moved to the present day, it changed. It added new themes that showed how the world was changing. Wonder Woman wasn't just stopping bad guys. She felt like she was standing up for justice. Carter did more than just act. A lot of the acts she did herself, which was pretty rare for female stars at the time. In the second season episode, Anshiel's 77, there was one of the most dangerous parts. She had to hang from a chopper 50 feet above the ground. She did something brave when the stunt double didn't look enough like her. She was going to do it herself. Not a single safety net or strap was there to catch her if something went wrong. The people in charge of the network were scared, but Carter was determined. She later said it was one of the best parts of being Wonder Woman and that it was very exciting. But this Wonder Woman wasn't just action-packed. She was also very interesting. Carter wouldn't let the character become nothing more than a pretty face. She hoped she would be a good example. She made sure that Wonder Woman was not only strong, but also kind, smart, and caring. She didn't just want women to look at her. She wanted them to admire her. In that balance, she had to prove herself in a world run by men as Diana Prince, a smart and skilled spy. She could not be stopped as Wonder Woman. Both parts of her personality were important. The show came at just the right time. In the late 1970s, the movement for women's freedom was growing stronger. On TV, female heroes were not common. That changed because of Wonder Woman. She became a sign of strength and freedom. Gloria Steinem put Wonder Woman on the cover of the first issue of Ms. Magazine in 1972, before the show even aired. Not just in comics, but in society as a whole, that moment showed how important she was. The show built on that. Not only did it show Wonder Woman fighting bad guys, but also said things about women's power, equality, and being able to keep yourself. There was a chance that Lynda Carter would have stayed in the background after Wonder Woman finished in 1979. She instead built a business that showed she was more than just a movie superhero. She got into the music business by having a number of TV shows where she could show off her singing skills. In 1980, Lynda Carter's special ran first, then Encore later that same year. It was nominated for an Emmy for Art Direction in Celebration in 1981, and it was nominated again for Street Life in 1982. These specials had a mix of music, dance, and famous guests, and Carter got to show that she was more than just action and stunts. She had one foot in acting and one in singing at the same time. She was in a funny 1980 episode of The Muppets Show, where they thought she was the real Wonder Woman. It was clear from the jokes that she wasn't afraid to poke fun at her DC roots, but she also wanted to show that she could handle more serious roles. Her big break came in 1983, when she played Rita Hayworth in Rita Hayworth, the Love Goddess, a TV movie about the famous actress's rise to fame and personal problems. Carter got ready for the part, and even changed her hair to look like Hayworth. Critics had different feelings about the movie. Some said it didn't go deep enough into the darker parts of Hayworth's life. Still, it was a big deal for Carter's career because it showed she was ready to play complicated roles. When she joined forces with Lonnie Anderson in 1984, They made partners in crime, a crime show with a twist. Carter played the part of Carol Stanwyck, a wealthy new woman from a rough past. Except for one thing, the two women were not alike. They were both married to the same man. They had to work together to solve crimes after he was killed and took over his detective business. The show had action, mystery, and comedy, but it was hard for people to watch. It only had 13 episodes before it was canceled. Carter got to try out a different type of part, even though the show only lasted short time. By the end of the 1980s, she was ready to try something new. She played Helen Durant, a rich woman with a dangerous secret, in Mike Hammer's Murder Takes All, 1989. Carter had a rare chance to play a bad guy in a movie, which was based on Mickey Spillane's famous detective character. She played Mike Hammer with Stacy Keach and a young Jim Carrey in one of his early parts. Even though it wasn't a big hit, the movie showed Carter wasn't afraid to become less of a hero. Music was still a big part of her life through it all. If you remember, Portrait came out in 1978 while Wonder Woman was still on TV. It had both original songs and covers, like She's Always a Woman by Billy Joel. Two of her songs were even used in an episode of Wonder Woman, but she kept making music after that. At last, a jazz record she put out in 2009 got to number 10 on Billboard's chart for jazz albums. Crazy Little Things, a mix of pop and country, came out in 2011. There were even 5 original songs she wrote and performed for the 2015 video game Fallout 4. These songs gave the game's world a unique musical touch. Carter still plays with her all-star band, which shows she is more than just an actor from an old TV show. People will always remember her as Wonder Woman, but her work after the show tells a more interesting story. Lynda Carter's life has also been shaped by love, loss, and the decisions she made along the way. At first, getting married seemed like a dream. They got married in 1977 when she was only 25 years old. Ron Samuels was a Hollywood producer and her agent. She was the most famous Wonder Woman at the time. But what seemed like the right match at first glance turned out to be a mistake that she felt bad about afterward. It was clear that she got married for the wrong reasons. She said I was stupid and he was a lot older. Samuels was in charge of her work and made many of her professional choices. She believed he knew what was best and let him lead. That imbalance led to stress over time. There were times when she felt stuck in both her marriage and her job. She kept getting cast as Wonder Woman in movies, which made it hard for her to move on. She knew something had to change because her job was giving her trouble and her marriage was falling apart. In 1982, after 5 years, she filed for divorce. In that moment, she made a choice that gave her back control of her life. Things were different after 2 years. She married Robert Altman, a lawyer from Washington, D.C., in 1984. It felt different this time. They had a deeper connection with each other, and their partnership was based on respect for each other. Years later, when Altman was charged with fraud in his banking job, Carter never changed her mind about believing he was innocent. He was found not guilty in the end, but the experience made them both stronger. They didn't break when they were pushed, they got stronger. Moving to Potomac, Maryland, gave them a place to live together away from Hollywood. Their 2 kids are named James and Jessica. She used to be a famous actress in Hollywood, but now she was a mom first. She didn't want her kids to be affected by the fame that was around them. In their home, being smart and interested were more important than being famous. Her children became lawyers like their father, but they also got her love of music. After getting her law degree, Jessica decided to become a musician. She performed with her mother at places like the Kennedy Center. Carter always thought it was the right thing to do to leave Hollywood with her family. She was known for her fame, but her family gave her meaning. She had made a life for almost 40 years, but in 2021, it all changed. He died of myelofibrosis, which is a rare type of leukemia. Carter lost both her husband and her best friend. She later said that after he died, she cried several times a day. He had been by her side for almost 37 years. Now she had to figure out who she was without him, of dealing. As a tribute to the love they had shared, she wrote songs about her loss. Human and Divine was the result. However, the song was also about being thankful for the time they did spend together. She also did something about her pain by setting up a fund for myelofibrosis study to help other people who have the disease. Even though it's been years since her loss, she still talks freely about it. It's not always easy for her, but she keeps going through singing, helping others, and the love of her children. She's getting there. Carter did more than just play a hero on TV. In real life, she became one. It's been years since she last spoke out against LGBTQ plus rights. She was the Grandmaster at Phoenix and Washington, D.C. Pride parades, but she supports LGBTQ people in many other ways as well. She has spoken out to make things better. She has pushed people to give money to LGBTQ plus groups and fought against abuse against the community. She got a lot of attention in 2022 when she said Wonder Woman was a gay hero. She talked about how many fans told her that the character helped them feel strong when they were feeling alone. Some people said no, but Carter didn't say no either. When hate speech against transgender people spread on social media, she sent a simple but strong message in response. Trans women are amazing. That's it. As the fight for transgender rights grew, her backing became even more crucial. Carter spoke out about his background. She stood up for transgender people and called out people who blamed them for problems that hurt women's rights. Equal means the same for everyone, she made it clear. Her work as an activist doesn't end there. She has worked hard to raise awareness about breast cancer. She helped start the national race for the cure and has done a lot of work with the Susan G. Komen Foundation. The group has raised more than two research since 1982. Carter has helped bring attention to early detection and care, especially in areas that don't have enough of it. She knows that this fight isn't just about money. It's about life and death. She has backed programs that make sure all women, regardless of their income, can get screenings and treatment. Because of work like this, 98% of people in the U.S. who have localized breast cancer are still alive after a year. She's also talked about how important family support is during health crises and how no one should have to go through it alone. Carter has never been afraid to speak out about politics. She has been very open about her support for Democratic contenders like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. When Biden stepped down in 2024, she backed Kamala Harris and praised the work she had done on climate change and abortion rights. But in Arizona's 2024 congressional race, she did something politically very brave. Kelly Butler and Karen Gresham were the Democratic candidates. She backed more than her own sister, Pamela Carter. Pamela did not support abortion rights or same-sex marriage like Lynda did. Lynda didn't say nothing. She spoke out against what her sister thought and made it clear that she thought equality was more important than family ties. It was in the news. She didn't give up, though. Aside from that, she is one of the most vocal celebrities in support of trans rights. She has spoken out against rules that target transgender people many times. Trans women are not the real threat to women's rights, she has said. The real threat comes from court decisions like overturning Roe v. Wade. She has spoken out against discrimination and used her fame to give people whose views aren't often heard a chance to be heard. Lynda Carter was Wonder Woman's face. She was a symbol of beauty and power. No one could see the battle she was in. She slowly started drinking when she was in her mid-20s. It didn't happen all at once. It crept in over time, starting as a way to deal with emotional struggles. That night, she talked about it as a pit that pulled her in before she knew how deep she was. She was married to talent agent Ron Samuels at the time. From 1977 to 1982, they were married, but it wasn't a happy time. The relationship made her drink more. It was possible for her to stop for short times, like when she was pregnant, but the problem never really went away. She kept giving up and then giving in again. It went around and around with denial, shame, and sorrow. Things got worse when she had trouble with her job. As soon as Wonder Woman ended in 1979, she was put in a certain role. Offers stopped coming in. The business world that used to praise her now sees her as just another character. That feeling of being stuck made her drink. In the early 1980s, it had become a bad habit. It kept her away from the people who really cared about her. She was able to hide it for years. She told herself she was in charge. Things were different by 1997, though. Robert Altman, her second husband, saw what was going on and wouldn't turn a blind eye. He told her to get help. She paid attention this time. In Maryland, she went to a rehab center because she knew this was her last chance to change things. Rehab was a hard process. Carter had always thought of herself as strong and able to handle anything, but she knew she couldn't fight her addiction by herself. She had to learn that willpower wasn't enough. Therapy helped her figure out why she was drinking in the first place. Groups that helped her made her feel like she wasn't alone. Over time, she began to get better. Altman was there for her through it all. Their marriage had already been through a lot, like his court problems in the early 1990s, but he never gave up on her. In fact, he did more than just tell her to get help. She often called him her knight in shining armor. He was by her side the whole time she was getting better. They stayed together until 2021, when he died. She continues to talk about addiction and recovery to honor his memory for now. Carter first told the public about her problems in an interview with People magazine in 2008. Not only was it brave of her, but it was brave of everyone who had ever felt bad about their problem. She wanted people to know that it was possible to get better. Since about addiction, such as the Wagoners Foundation speaker series from the Council on Recovery, she tells others her story to give them hope. In the 1970s, Lynda Carter became famous as Wonder Woman, but her time in Hollywood was not at all what people thought it would be like. Later, she showed the bad side of the business by talking openly about the harassment she faced. In 2018, she said that a powerful guy had been after her and had done this to other women before. She didn't say his name. She didn't have to, though. He was already having to deal with the effects of the hashtag #MeToo movement at that point. She thought about going to court, but she couldn't find any good choices. Finally, she felt like just another woman whose pain had been forgotten. She and other actors kept telling each other secrets for years. Speaking out could hurt a person's job. The business world looked out for powerful guys, not the women they hurt. Tell whom are you going to? She told him, no one will believe you. She played a hero on screen, but she didn't feel strong in real life. But some of the worst times in her work weren't just when she was abused in secret. One of them took place on the set of Wonder Woman. There was a hole in the wall of her dressing room, made by Almond. He wanted to keep an eye on her. She didn't know until studio execs called her in while she was changing. The person was caught. They were fired and told they couldn't work in the field again. That didn't change what had happened, though. She felt exposed and abused. At last, after many years, she told her story. It wasn't just about what had happened to her. It had to do with the bigger system that made it possible. By speaking out, she backed up what Wonder Woman had always fought for. Not giving up, even when it looked like there was no way to win.